Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining our live broadcast from today. My name is Tony Beeston, and I'll be your host. Today's event is about key requirements for efficient data pipelines. And Jan will discuss about leveraging the value of data being one of the most important challenges for many companies today. Managing data pipelines is not easy. Most IT organizations are still spending too much time getting the data rather than using it to create business value. Jan will cover how you can get end-to-end control on your data pipeline automation, and streamline the continuous transformation of raw data into valuable insight. Before we start, some housekeeping. We are in a public webinar, so your phone lines will remain on mute. Please use the question area in BrightTalk to raise any queries from today's presentation. Jan will go through these at the end. This webinar is being recorded and will be available to you through the same link you used today to review or share with others. Now, with that done, I'd like to introduce you to our speaker for today, Jan Gonian. He leads product marketing for data automation at Broadcom, and so is the perfect person to walk us through the key requirements for efficient data pipelines. So without further ado, Jan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tony. So welcome, and thank you for your interest in Broadcom's automation solutions. During this session, I will discuss the importance of automation for managing data pipelines. Digital transformation has been a game changer in the way you leverage data today. Data is key not only for decision making, but also for delivering the customer experience that can differentiate your company from the competition. It means your ability to manage efficient data pipelines has a direct impact on the services you expose to your customers. It has a direct impact on your company brand image. That's why today data science and analytics have become even more critical for the enterprise decision making. But many business leaders today are still struggling with getting value from their data science projects. At Broadcom, we believe that automation is really a key asset to better enable data management and, of course, deliver valuable insight faster. Broadcom has a global approach to automation. If you have attended the previous webinar of the series, you probably already know about our approach. In fact, we are not just delivering point automation tools, we are helping customers to adopt an automation center of enablement approach. This is really about enterprise automation, holistic automation. It's creating an automation-first culture with reusable building blocks, with an automation ecosystem you can share in your organization. And of course, it's about integrating with your existing tools. Because enterprise automation should not be like a big bang, but more a way to orchestrate your existing tool chains. There are 6 main use cases which we are integrating into open source, multi-cloud, and even competitive tools. So with automation intelligence, we provide visibility across critical business processes, even if you are using multiple automation vendors. With multi-cloud automation, we automate the delivery of infrastructures and IT services across cloud and ITSM tools. With continuous delivery release automation, we automate the deployment of code, configurations, and full stack applications. With workload automation, we automate the traditional business processes across platforms and business applications. With data pipeline automation, which is the topic of today, we automate a mix of data movements and data processing in large volumes. And with site reliability automation, we automate problem detection and remediation for improving site reliability engineering initiatives. So it's really about adding more agility into the IT operations. So these are the main topics we focus on at Broadcom. But now let's dive into today's subject, the data pipeline automation. So to start, let's just imagine. Imagine Google is telling you to wait. The problem is that today, slow is considered as the new downtime. As a matter of fact, if your online service is broken, and of course it has an impact on your business. But if your service is just slow, then it has exactly the same impact. If you do not deliver the best customer experience, your customers will just work with your competitors, and you will be another victim of the customer churn. That's why when I say, imagine Google is asking you to wait for 2 weeks, in fact, it's not imaginable. Today, your customers or even your internal users simply cannot imagine waiting to get access to information. They are used to instant messaging, cloud services, immediate response. They just expect that same level of service for every IT service they use. So the reality is that data cannot wait. But actually, managing data pipelines is difficult. Let me give you a few figures about that. The figures are coming from a recent TDWI and Forrester survey. First interesting fact, more than half of the companies that were in the survey need more than 2 weeks to create a new data source. I think this is a typical pain of the traditional data warehouse. Many organizations have too many hard-coded processes. Of course, it's working, but it lacks the level of agility that is required for the digital business. Maybe you are familiar with that situation. The business is asking you for new reports to make decisions on some marketing actions, for example, but you don't have the data yet. You need to set or to configure a new data source. If it takes weeks to create the new data source, it means you're delivering a poor level of service to the business, and in fact, they will get the insight they need much too late. As a consequence, and this is not really a surprise, the same survey reveals that IT organizations are spending 80% of their time getting access to the data instead of using the data. It means that the balance between keeping the lights on and innovating is not really good. And the last consequence, not the least important, IT organizations are struggling with artificial intelligence. 40% have difficulties with data preparation, sourcing, or management. And without efficient access to data, there is no machine learning and there is no artificial intelligence. Now the question is why so many companies are running into those problems. As I said when I introduced today's topic, at Broadcom we are convinced that automation is key to successful data management, but all automation strategies are not equal. And the figures you can see now on that slide are very interesting. They come from a recent EMA survey about digital transformation and application modernization. More than half of the respondents report that they are using a mix of automation tools. They are using tools like operating system schedulers. You know, it's tools like Chrome, like Windows scheduler. They use also open source schedulers, big data schedulers, ETL schedulers, Or many times they use also diverse workload automation solutions because many companies have already workload automation. It means they do not have end-to-end control on the processes they manage. Even if some portions of the processes are automated, they still have manual synchronization, manual handovers. As a result, they experience a higher rate of failure, and the lack of visibility and control impacts their agility. You know, it's very difficult to increase the number of changes on processes you have only little control on. So there is a visible impact on that situation. You can see the two figures in the middle of the slide. Around 40% of companies have difficulties with application modernization and business demands for transformation. As a matter of fact, most companies do not start digital initiatives from scratch. They need to integrate new technologies with legacy systems. They need to automate hybrid processes spanning from the mainframe to the cloud. They also need to leverage big data, machine learning, and more advanced analytics to improve the customer experience they deliver. That's probably why we see this noticeable result from the survey. 80% of the companies are now considering to improve their automation strategies, and they are looking for ways to get more centralized control on their automated processes. Now, what are the consequences of not having the right strategy for automating data pipelines? Across many discussions we had with our customers, we have realized that companies run big data environments in total isolation or near total isolation from enterprise business processes. Of course, it's easy to understand the reasons, different technologies, different skills, different teams. But running big data like a silo has a significant impact on your innovation capability. So why? Simply because you need to integrate big data into your DevOps initiatives in order to avoid slowing down innovation. The reality is that your data pipelines have to be automated along your continuous delivery pipelines. In fact, if you are doing DevOps today for improving the customer experience you deliver, very soon you will be considering doing DataOps, and for that you will need automation that goes beyond silos. We also found that siloed automation has a big impact on scalability. Many companies find it difficult to scale with the volume of data, or maybe the number of data sources. Most of the time, data scientists struggle to get access to the data they need when they need it. They also find that managing data flows is much too complex, and they always require support from the IT expert, from the IT operations. So once again, it impacts innovation, but it also makes it difficult to keep operational costs under control, because IT teams, IT operations are always involved at every level of the data management. Another effect we found is the result of poor visibility and control on the data flows. Manual operations, manual handovers are increasing the risks of compliance issues. Just think about all the data protection regulations like GDPR, CCPA, HIPAA, and much more. To ensure compliance with your data, you need to secure operations, trace who's doing what, and when he's doing it. So that said, what should you do? There is an interesting example from one of our customers. This is a utility company in the US. They provide electricity and gas to millions of households. And like many of other energy providers, they have massively deployed smart meters just to record the consumption of the customers. Typically, a smart meter records energy hourly or maybe more frequently, and at least they report the data once daily to a central location. So for that, they use a kind of two-way communication between the meter and the central system. So implementing smart meters is only useful if you can make use of the large amount of data it produces. And one of the main objectives of the company we are talking about was to improve their meter-to-cash process, meaning they wanted to be able to bill the customers as soon as possible. The problem they had was to integrate the corporate systems, like the ERP systems, into the meter-to-cash process. And they had to scale that process up to 86 million readings every day. So a very big amount of data. Of course, the solution was to automate the meter-to-cash process end-to-end. And using Broadcom, they have been able to automate that mix of data movements and data processing. And as a result, the entire meter-to-cash process has been significantly accelerated. Now it runs nearly 70% faster. And of course, with a greater reliability. But this is not the only benefits data pipeline automation could bring to that company. The seamless access to data has enabled delivery of new digital services for the customers. So they could add real-time monitoring of the energy consumptions to be available to the customers, billing alerts, forecasting on energy consumption, all that available on the customer portal for every of the customers using a smart meter. So it's really a win-win situation. On one side, getting cash sooner for the company. On the other side, delivering innovative services for the customers. Another customer example, this is a movie theater chain. They have millions of customers in the US, hundreds of locations in the country. As part of their digital transformation initiatives, they were looking for automating social media interactions based on real-time business information. So in fact, they wanted to get that information from the different locations, the point of sales, and so on. So globally, they wanted to drive social media campaigns and promotions to help increase revenues on selected locations. The locations that show poor business performance with poor attendance on the movies and maybe poor performance for selling popcorn and stuff like that. So for doing that, they had to build a fully automated data pipeline from the point of sale systems to the analytics to the social networks. From a technology perspective, automation enabled that customer to extract millions of entries from the point of sale systems every day. They could ingest that data into the data stores, run the analytics, generate the campaigns, and then push messages to 500,000 followers on the social media. What they did is really typical of a modern data pipeline. Not only you need to move the data, but you also need to mix data movements with data processing. And this is exactly where data pipeline automation delivers a lot of value. As a result, the customer was able to increase company revenues thanks to automation, and they could introduce at the IT level a major innovation, meaning real-time data-driven social media presence, all that supported by a fully automated data pipeline. All this has been done using automation from Broadcom. Now, what are the key requirements for efficient data pipelines? What did we learn helping our customers? First thing, collaboration is essential. Teams, tools, infrastructures, all those need coordination. Automation can bring them all together and help bridge technology and functional silos. Of course, when you become fully digital, you cannot afford managing disconnected silos or disconnected data. The second requirement is to accelerate the time to value from data. Your customers cannot wait for information. This was the opening slide for the session. So it is critical you automate operations that require manual efforts. By automating data pipelines end-to-end, you reduce the potential for human errors, you improve the data quality, and you accelerate the data flows. The third requirement is about offering self-services to data specialists. Data scientists and data engineers still rely too much on IT operations. And because they need IT operations to get access to the data, to provision compute environments and IT services, they also need them to deploy their work into production. In fact, the reality is that they need IT operations too much. Without automation, you create a bottleneck and you slow down the delivery of value from the data. The fourth requirement is not surprising in the context of digital business. Companies need to capture, store, and process the data as it arrives in any volume, and they have to distribute information to downstream applications and sometimes in real time. This is a context where traditional data tools are not efficient. Once again, because you need to manage a mix of data movement and data processing, and most of the time within the same flow. So automation can help you to improve the integration between data flows and traditional enterprise business processes. And the last requirement is easy to understand. You have more and more regulations, just as we said before. Everything around data protection. So you need to set a strong governance on complex and distributed processes. And automation can help you to create the building blocks you can reuse in your data flows. So it means better standardization and better control on your processes. Now, a bit of detail on Broadcom solution for automating data pipelines. So the goal of the solution is to let you automate all the steps to transform source data into a valuable insight. So what do we cover? So we help capturing data from all the endpoints and applications. So we saw that in the customer examples with the utility company getting information from the smart meters, the movie theater chain getting all the data from the point of sale systems. Also with Broadcom, you will be able to process and to transfer the data you capture securely. The products include managed file transfer capabilities, point-to-point transfer capabilities, so it's easy to transfer flat files or any kind of files from one location to another. The Broadcom solution helps you to ingest data into the big data stores. We have integrations with data stores like Hadoop. You can also integrate with any third-party tools along the data pipelines. We have a marketplace with hundreds of integrations you can get for interacting with third-party tools. You can also enable self-service to make data actionable for the data scientists. The data scientists can use the products in order to create visual workflows based on building blocks that has been created by the IT experts. So it's easy for the data scientists to build their workflows or to request execution of workloads in order to get access to the data or to run the analytics. You can also provision test or computing infrastructures, and we know it's very important now with machine learning and artificial intelligence. And of course, the solution will help you to deploy models or code in order to enable your analytics inside your processes. So Broadcom lets you automate data pipelines really end-to-end. And as a result, by orchestrating tools, teams, infrastructure, and data, Broadcom enables you to install what we could call the continuous analytics. As a conclusion, 3 good reasons to trust Broadcom for your automation. Workflow automation. Broadcom enables data scientists with self-service and visual workflows that simplify access to data. The broad ecosystem. When you select an automation solution, you need to ensure it covers your technology end-to-end. Broadcom delivers automation for data, for tools, for code, for infrastructures, and it delivers that broad ecosystem. And finally, about scale, because your digital future depends on automation, so you need to build your future on a solution that is scalable and that can grow with the business demands. That said, I think it is time for questions. Tony, back to you. Any questions from the audience?
Thank you very much indeed, Jan. Yes, you do already have a couple of questions that have come in. I will tell the rest of the audience you do still have time. If you have a question, feel free to type it into the question area in BrightTalk. But Jan, your first question is, can't I just use open source tools to automate data pipelines?
Yes, yes, of course you can. And this is what many companies do. They are using tools like Oozie, Airflow, Azkaban, mainly big data open source tools. But the problem is you need a holistic automation. This is what we said in that presentation. Open source tools can help you to automate specific tasks on specific technologies, like Hadoop, for example. But in fact, you create silos, you create islands of automation, and the risk is to lose control on the end-to-end pipeline. So yes, it works, but it cannot help you to get the full control on the end-to-end pipeline.
Okay, thank you very much. And your next question is, where do you see data management going?
Yeah, that's a broad question. I think there is a big evolution in the way you manage data pipelines. It's because of adoption of big data, AI, and machine learning. In fact, most of the time, you work directly on production data because you cannot validate your machine learning algorithms on just a subset of your data. And you cannot replicate all the production data for testing because it's too big, because of the volume. So the big challenge that is coming for many companies is how to make your DevOps pipeline and your data pipelines to run in full coordination. There is a name you can put on that. It's DataOps. And of course, automation will be critical to be able to do successful DataOps.
Cool. Thank you very much indeed. Jan. That is the end of the questions that you've got here. So thank you, Jan, for presenting the key requirements for efficient data pipelines. I hope you, the audience, have found it useful and interesting. Thank you very much for attending and enjoy the rest of your day.